Hey guys, it's Mari G and I'm back with another DIY sewing tutorial. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made these satin lined faux fur headbands. If you like to see how I made these, continue watching. If you like to see more DIY sewing tutorials, click subscribe and click the bell to be notified. So you will need paper to make a pattern, a tape measure, paper scissors, fabric scissors, a winded bobbin, stretch needles and pins. You will need stretch satin, also fur fabric. My fur actually has a stretch. I'm thinking you might need a half a yard, but I'm using scraps for this project. I start with making a pattern for my headband. I make the length of the pattern to the length of my head measurements, adding 1.5 inches more because I will be taking off with seam allowance. Also, the satin does not stretch as much as it would with knit fabric. It actually fits to your head size, so you could end up with a too tight headband. After I make the length of the pattern, I make the width of the headband. I do this by going up 4 inches and making a rectangle. You can do this any way that you want to. In the beginning, I showed you a 5-inch and a 3-inch headband. I made the 3-inch headband by using this 4-inch pattern. When I sewed the two pieces together, I took off about 1 inch of seam allowance. Once you have your rectangle pattern, you're just going to cut it out. And this is how mine turned out after I labeled everything. I use this pattern to cut out the satin and the fur. So when I cut out my fur, I turned it over to the opposite side and laid the pattern down so that when I cut it, I make sure that I am cutting the backing of the fur and not the actual fur. I ended up with 2 strips, one of my stretch satin and one of my fur. I placed them right sides together and pinned them on the long sides, the length of my head. After pinning them on these sides, I sewn down these 2 sides about 1 inch seam allowance. You can see in the left corner that I have a popsicle stick to make sure that I did 1 inch seam allowance. I did this so that I can make sure that I caught the fur, because sometimes when you sew it, you don't really catch it. After sewing the 2 pieces together, I cut off that extra seam allowance. Here I already did that, but I thought I was recording and obviously I wasn't. But I'm just going to show you a little sneak peek. So you just cut a little bit away from the stitch line, not on the stitch line, because you will mess up your headband. I cut the extra seam allowance off so that it wouldn't be bulky when I wear the headband. Once I cut it all off, I pulled the headband outside of itself to pull the right side out. Don't really know how to word that. I'm confusing myself. Basically, just push it through and pull it out so that the right side is facing you. Now, for this part, I used an iron to lay it down, but you don't have to. I'm doing it because I actually sell these, so I'm going to press it down and make sure that the seams are flat, neat, and perfect. After pressing it down, I am going to close off the ends. Now, if you have a serger, I recommend doing that, but because I do not, I am going to take my thumbs on each seams and push it inside of the headband. After folding the fabric inside of the headband, I pressed it down with the iron just to make it a little bit easier to sew. And then I top stitch a little bit away from the edge, not right on the edge, but just to make sure that everything was locked down. And this is how it turned out in the left hand corner. If you have a serger, then you could have automatically skipped and went straight to this step. But after I locked in the ends, I folded it over and sewn straight across to close off the headband. Okay, so after sewing, this is how my headband turned out. It still turned out pretty neat, but if you have that serger, y'all go ahead and use that because it might be a little better. But this is the end result. I think they still turned out great. Like I said in the beginning, I made a 3-inch and a 5-inch, so you can get creative with any color, any size width that you want. This headband actually matches the fur jacket that I am wearing. I made this fur jacket. If you like to see how I make my fur jackets, I do have a tutorial on my page. I did mention that I do sell these headbands on my online store. If you're interested in purchasing one, my link is in the description box. One thing that I do recommend is leaving a comment before purchasing and letting me know your exact head measurement. Thank you guys for watching. If you'd like to see more DIY and sewing tutorials, subscribe to my channel and click the bell to be notified. I post videos every Sunday. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.